Good morning all of you. I am Ginju Mathew. Today I am going to teach the structure of the human eye and its working. You have already studied in the previous chapter about the different types of the mirrors, different type of lenses, the position, nature and size of the images obtained with the help of different type of lenses. One of the amazing fact is that our human eye also has a natural convex lens in its structure. Our human eye uses light and enables us to see this beautiful world around us. It works on the principle of the refraction of the light with the help of the natural convex lens. Let me explain the structure of the human eye in detail. This is the structure of the human eye. The front view and the side view of the human eye is shown, and some of the important parts of the human eye are also labeled here. The first part of the human eye is called the eyeball. The spherical structure of the human eye is called the eyeball. The front transparent portion of the eye is called cornea. It is bulged outwards. That means it is convex in nature. This cornea allows the light from the object to enter into the eye. Behind the cornea, you can see a circular diaphragm. It is ring-shaped structure. It is known as iris. At the center of the iris, there is a small hole. That hole is called the pupil. It is the iris that determines the color of the human eye. The function of the iris is to regulate the amount of light entering into the eye by adjusting the size of the pupil. You might have experienced that when you are playing in the ground in the bright light, and the moment you enter into the classroom, you may not be able to see the things very clearly. Have you ever thought of this reason? It is because in the ground, since the intensity of the light is very high, the size of the pupil contracts so that very less amount of the light enters into the eye. And the moment you enter into the classroom, the pupil takes some time to comes back into the original size. This is the reason you are not able to see the things very properly. Hence, the iris regulates the amount of light entering into the eye by adjusting the size of the pupil. In bright light, the pupil contracts so that very less amount of light enters into the eye, and in the dim light, the pupil expands so that more amount of light enters into the eye. Now behind the pupil, you can see a round structure. This is called the eye lens. It is convex in nature, hence it is converging, so that it converges the light rays from the object and forms image on the retina, where retina is a screen on the back part of the human eye. In the retina, there are many light sensitive cells called rod cells and cone cells are present. When the image is formed on the retina, the rod cells and cone cells become activated and they started generating electric signals. These electric signals are taken to the brain with the help of certain nerves called optic nerve. The rod cells respond to the intensity of the light and the cone cells respond to the color of the light. Now you can see a small spot here. This is called the blind spot. It is present at the point where the optic nerve leaves the retina. One of the peculiarity of the blind spot is that there are no rod cells and cone cells present on the blind spot. Hence, if any image is formed on the blind spot, it cannot be sent to the brain. Now there is another structure called the sclera. It is an opaque, fibrous, protective outer covering of the eye. It is white in color. Now there is a space between the cornea and the eye lens. That space is filled with certain viscous fluid and that is called the aqueous humor. Similarly, there is a space between the eyelens and the retina that is also filled with a fluid that is called the vitreous humor. Here, the eyelens is held in position with the help of certain muscles, and that muscles are called ciliary muscles. Now let me explain the working of the human eye. It is shown diagrammatically here. The light from the object enters the eye through the cornea and falls onto the eyelens through the pupil. Since the eyelens is converging, it converges the light rays and forms the image on the retina. On the retina, a very small, real and inverted image is formed. When the image is formed on the retina, the light sensitive cells become activated. They started producing electric signals, and these signals are transported to the brain with the help of the optic nerves. Then the brain interprets the message and we perceive the object. I hope you have understood the structure of the human eye and its working. Now you might be wondering how our human eye is able to see the nearby objects and the distant objects very clearly. Our eye is more or less like a photographic camera. In the case of a photographic camera, we can adjust the focal length of the lens to zoom the nearby objects and the far objects clearly. But in the case of a human eye, how does it possible? Let me explain this with the help of some diagrams. In our human eye, our eye lens has an ability or a property to adjust its focal length by adjusting its size with the help of the action of the ciliary muscles. This property or this phenomenon is called power of accommodation. The ability of the eye lens to focus both near and far objects by adjusting its focal length by the action of the ciliary muscles is called power of accommodation. Let me explain with the help of these two diagrams. For example, if our eye focus a distant objects, we need an eye lens of large focal length. In such case, the ciliary muscles relax. That means it pulls the lens from both sides so that the eye lens becomes thin. And a thin eye lens have large focal length so that it converges the light rays from the distant objects and forms the image on the retina. That means, in order to focus a distant object, the ciliary muscles relaxed, eye lens becomes thin and the focal length increases. Similarly, in order to focus a nearby object, we need an eye lens of small focal length. In such cases, the ciliary muscles contract. That means it pushes the lens from both sides and the lens becomes thicker. And a thicker eye lens has small focal length. And it converges the light rays from the nearby object and forms the image on the retina. In short, in order to see a nearby object, the ciliary muscles contract, eye lens become thicker and focal length decreases. Hence, the eye lens adjusts its focal length by adjusting its size to focus a distant object and a nearby object is called the power of accommodation. I hope you have understood the topic and enjoyed it well. Thank you. Have a nice day.